Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. And I think most of you know me, some of you don't, but my name is Krystal. I am a registered nurse, specifically in pediatrics. But specifically, what I'm focused on now is functional nutrition. And there's ultimately kind of this gap between the two that we're going to talk a lot about today, and how sort of the healthcare system looks at health and wellness completely separate from nutrition. Let me make sure of one more thing that we're recording. Perfect. Okay. So that's why we're here. This feels a little bit like juggling 50 things at the same time. So thanks for your patience. Okay. So I want you to, hopefully you've been prepping since we've chat either in the classrooms or you've known me through yoga, or however it is that you came to land in this webinar. Just kind of thinking about overall living. Like, how do you live in your body? How does it feel to live in your body day in and day out? Do you wake up rested? Do you feel like you have all the energy in the world? Do you move freely, think clearly, feeling drained, not drained, all the things? So I want you to have like a curious cap on today in all of those questions that I asked. So if I say like, oh, do you wake up full of energy? And you're like, well, no. Try to think of it as like, what is it that you do wake up feeling, right? And kind of lean into that and just let that be something that's actual and factual. I wake up and I feel exhausted all the time. By noon, I hit this crash. I can hardly run around with my kids. Or the opposite side, I feel like I live a really well-lived life. Whatever that may be, just kind of hone into that. If you've been getting my emails, I've been setting the prompts just because I want you to start thinking about your life and the way that it is, and rather taking today's information as insight and like a curiosity, rather than this idea that we need to fix a lot of things. Okay. So if your chat isn't popped open, go ahead and pop it open for me. And this is the only time that I'm going to ask you or require you to write in the chat. But I want to know, give yourself a number on a scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate the state of your health currently? So that is including your energy, your sleep, clarity, mood, the way you feel in your body, what you prepare in your kitchen, what you don't prepare in the kitchen. So 1 is like, I feel completely off, I'm completely lost. 10 is I feel incredible, consistent, energized. There's no judgment. I just want to know, like, throw it in the chat. Good. We've got some good mid ranges. We've got an 8, got some 3. They're all over the board. Love it. Katiana 7. Nice. Awesome. Across the board. Mary, you're such an overachiever. I love it. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for being honest, most importantly. Sometimes it's really hard for us to kind of think about our life in a nutshell and just putting it into one number, right? But here's what's really important to think about in terms of the number is not random. It's often a result of our inputs and our choices. So it stems from I know, I could do better, or I know I shouldn't eat that, or yeah, most of the time I do really great, or yeah, I have to really like say no to things and have this discipline. Wherever you are on the spectrum, it's not random, it's not bad luck, and it's just not about getting older. I hear that all the time. People are like, I'm just getting old, so my body falls apart. I promise that is not, it's completely a lie, right? So yes, our body gets older and it's organic matter, so it kind of degrades over time. But ultimately, it's just that we don't get away with things the way that we used to when we're 20. But it's like falling apart, feeling pains, not being able to sleep, low energy has nothing to do with aging. It's all about inputs. So this fact is really, really interesting. Carissa, you're going to love this one. So our bodies are 100% molecularly made from food. All of our cells, I think there's like 20 trillion cells in our body, 100% from food. There is nothing else that contributes to our cellular biology. What's also really cool along that same line is babies are a 3D imprint in the womb. So if you think about that, the way the baby sort of like, if you think it's kind of weird, it prints out DNA, it's printed from the food mom eats and what she's been eating prior to conception. This is really crazy to think about it. It really kind of makes you think like, I get all these weird cravings when I'm pregnant, or prior to being pregnant, I had a crappy diet and now I'm pregnant. Now I'm trying to hone it in. So that's really interesting to think about. The baby is a 3D imprint from food. Okay. Oops. Let's go back. All right. So this is sort of the reality of what we're facing. Okay. So 93% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. If you're like, I don't know what metabolic health means, just think of metabolism, right? What you eat, how it digests, then how you move out trash. 93%. And that's rated based on blood sugar, glucose, waist circumference, and your sensitivity to insulin. Your ability to, like, if your glucose spikes up, how quickly does the insulin drop that glucose back down? 70% are overweight. And what's crazy is over the past 50 years, the amount of gym memberships have nearly tripled. It's gone up by 125%, yet obesity has gone up by 40. So it's sort of like, what's going on there? We're moving a little bit more, we're a little bit cognizant, but yet obesity has risen. So we're kind of looking at all these things: food quality, sleep, stress, sitting too much, not moving in the right way, the lack of sunlight, all those things. So I want to just kind of pause from the slides just for a moment, because I'm just going to feel like I'm just slide sharing at you this whole time, which I don't want to do that. I wanted to share with you sort of the story of my years of being a nurse. I still am a nurse, but I was only able to see healthcare from one lens when I first started. And it was about treating the symptoms, what Band-Aid there was for it, and ultimately keep the people coming back. And I wasn't doing that intentionally, but that's what it was. Because if you're going to put a Band-Aid on it, eventually that wound is going to continue to seep. And so you keep them coming back. And that's what I thought the healthcare system was. So about 20 years ago, I was a nurse on the floor. So I'd work that crazy 7 to 7 shift in overnight. So I'd work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I'd eat at random hours. I would eat the worst food possible. Like, we're talking about chicken tenders and nachos and fried food from the hospital cafeteria. Awake at crazy hours, sleeping when the world would be sleeping. Sleeping when the world would be awake, or sometimes not even sleeping at all, because I'd get off of work at 7. It's like, oh, now I have to go teach yoga at 9 in the morning, or so-and-so has a birthday party and I don't want to miss out. So I'm just going to stay up for 24 hours and go to these things. So nonetheless, I didn't even know it. I was in my 20s at the time, but my health was declining like behind the scenes, until one day it was not behind the scenes. I started developing massive stomach pains, like the ones that where you like could barely stand. So when I would work my 12-hour shifts at the hospital, I would go take care of a patient, and then I would come back and have to lay down in an empty room for like 5 minutes before I could go take care of my next patient. And this was like normal. I did this for a couple of years. I would go take care of someone, come back. This is insane if you've ever experienced stomach pain or worked a job like this. So eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to go see a doctor. And they did all these crazy tests. I had to drink chalk to just kind of figure out what was going on through my intestines. And I was diagnosed with H. pylori. And H. pylori is this crazy bacteria in your stomach that causes your the acid to be really abundant in your digestive tract, and it just kind of pushes up into your esophagus. So think of like the volcanoes in elementary school, where it's like baking soda and vinegar, and then you just keep putting vinegar in it. And that explosion and sort of that geyser effect is just coming up in through the esophagus. So that's what was going on with me. And that's why I was having so much pain, because there was this cramping that was going on in my stomach. Add to all of this, it was the year that I was getting married in 2008. And so I was like, if I don't get this taken care of, I don't even know how I'm going to stand for my own wedding. I can't even stand for more than like 15 minutes at a time. So I did what the doctors prescribed. I was on 2 rounds of crazy antibiotics for 2 to 3 weeks. And it was like, okay, it was mildly better. But still, I'm like, I don't think I could survive like a whole day of standing for my wedding. And so along the way, then I started to discover, what am I eating? What am I doing? What am I moving? What am I thinking? What am I saying? All this stuff that's being absorbed in my body that's contributing to all these factors. Sure, yes, I could blame it on the 7 to 7 shift and chicken fingers in the middle of the night. But ultimately, it's all those things, right? Because we get really wrapped in like, this causes cancer, this causes cancer. If you don't do this, it's causing. But everything is a compounded causation, ultimately stemming from food, for sure. All right, let me see if I can share my slide back again here. Okay. I didn't realize unsharing was going to throw everything off on my computer. Thanks for your patience, guys. Okay, everyone can see the slide? Cool. All right. So if the slides get too overwhelming for you, just kind of glance at them and I will break them down in sort of like the most elementary school way possible, because I don't want these to be big words that you're like, ugh, this is really confusing. Okay. So I want you to think about metabolic health as a metaphoric city. It's where trillions of cells live together. So trillions of people live together, and each person needs air, water, and fuel to operate. So if the city is running very smoothly and it's healthy, there's going to be a nonstop need for resources, but there's no scarcity of supplies. So there's no need for rationing, like when we were rationing for toilet paper during COVID. There's not a need for that. It's just an even fluctuation of movement and flow, things coming out, things coming in, all of that, just like the seasons of Mother Nature. Now, if this city is struggling, there is a strong impulse for gripping, holding, hoarding. So just like we think about the toilet paper idea of COVID, is people start to get aggressive. You rush to the store, you spend all your money on toilet paper because you don't know how, like, when it's going to come back. You bring it home, you store it in your house in places that don't even exist. Now you're out of money and now you have no space in your house, and it's just completely bombarded with something that you're just holding on to that you think you need, right? So this is translating into our bodies as pollution. So we start to feel stressed, brain fog, cravings, fatigue. We feel all that. If you can think about living in a city, if this were actually happening with all the trillions of people living it, that's what you would feel too. All this aggression, all this gripping, all this hoarding. I need this. And you kind of pull things away from other people, right? Because we're rationing. Metabolic health ultimately is the question of, is my metabolism a roller coaster, or is it a little bit more even keel? When your blood sugar goes up really quickly and then everything in between, we are more susceptible to insult of chronic conditions, obesity, bearing things and stressors of organs that we don't want to have. Okay. So these are our warning bells. We get that forgetfulness, that anxiety, that irritability, the fatigue, right? And we think it's just, again, we're just getting older. That's just what happens. We're just getting older. But really, it's that town that's just getting super, super, super exhausted. Okay. Do I feel safe? Do I have enough energy? Can I keep my body alive? It's interesting that I'm saying the metaphor about toilet paper. It sounds really funny. But at that time, we had that sensation. It's like toilet paper, then what? Then is it going to be meat? Then is it going to be bread? Then is it going to be water that we're running out of, right? So it becomes a deep safety issue. So these are often the chronic issues that we see the most and people are most in tune with, right? We hear people with asthma, arthritis, gut issues. And ultimately, something like asthma is simply just our airway cells inflamed. And it causes so much swelling that mucus has to come in. Inflammation is just that swelling, right? And then redness and then irritation. So we get the cough that's trying to minimize that mucus from basically suffocating us. That's what asthma is. Arthritis is just basically our joints are too hot and they're breaking down faster than they can repair. That's all that is. Super simple to think about. Nothing complicated. Gut issues, same thing. The lining becomes so damaged that the food that we put in our body can't be absorbed. It can't be directed to the cells that they need to go to. Anxiety and depression. So 95% of the chemical we need, serotonin, I'll get into a whole thing into that in a moment. Serotonin is created in the gut. So what we're putting in the gut helps the production or lack thereof of serotonin. And then cancer. Cancer is like the big one that we're trying to avoid or is the scary diagnosis, right? And that's ultimately where the cells just get confused and then they misfire. They form incorrectly and then they just form wherever they generate, but we don't know where, right? So it gets this confusion in our body. So these cells are overgrowing. So I often hear a lot when I discuss the conversation of metabolic health, or even just food or diet, whatever you want to call it. It's like, I eat a lot, or actually I don't eat that much, and because I'm trying to lose weight. That kind of goes one way or another, okay? So I want you to think about this conversation as not so much as like, how much do you eat, how little you eat, but rather, is there a possibility that we could be over or underfed, resulting in undernourishment at the same time? It can go to extremes. But typically, often what I see is being overfed and undernourished, more often than not. So we often see things like, I lost my slide. Go back to this one. So ultra-processed foods, right? So foods that are just not in their original form, ingredients that you can't find at the store, ingredients that you don't even know how to cook with. So it's a big kind of fancy, trendy word right now, but it's just simple food that you can't find at the store. Blood sugar spikes, we talked about that. How much is your metabolism, your metabolic condition, a roller coaster, or is it a little bit smoother sailing? Chronic dehydration. So that's, think about like your city now is in a complete drought. Things get sluggish, the blood thickens, and the body gets really stressed trying to find water. Toxic overload. That's everything you come encounter with, be it something that's invisible like electromagnetic frequency, like EMF radiation from our Wi-Fi, EMF radiation from anything that plugs in, let alone what you drink, what you eat, what you smell. If you don't know this already, this is always sort of like a really interesting fact. Before you leave your home in the morning, given if you work out of home, you're usually exposed to about 200 to 300 toxins before you even leave your home. Everything from the perfume you put on, to the toothpaste, to the cup that you're drinking your coffee out of, to the kind of coffee you're drinking, to the clothing you're wearing, so on and so forth. You guys get my point, right? So is it one thing that leads us to all these metabolic dysfunctions? No, it's the compound of all the things. So things like the sedentary lifestyle, lack of movement, or not even at all. And then ultimately the nervous system dysregulation. So just feeling frantic constantly, feeling like nothing's giving right now and I just need a break, right? And so then the other side of this often that I hear is, well, I work out 3 to 5 days a week and I eat healthy, but I still feel the fatigue. I still feel like I'm holding on weight and I'm not sleeping, right? So then the next step is then what? The next step is, well, how are you eating? In what order? What's the quality of food? And all that. And we'll get into that here in a moment. So I'm covering all of you guys in all of your ranges, because you guys are running the gamut of, we'd had some 1s all the way up to 9s for how you would rate your health. Okay, so I want today for you guys to think about all of this to be super simple. Sort of breaking this down as if we're just talking to like 8-year-olds, right? Nothing complex. Foundation number 1, hydration. We can live without food. We can live without movement. We can live without sunlight, in theory. Not very well, but you can. But you cannot live without water, and you cannot live without air. Those are 2 absolutely required. So you can go a very long time with just water and air. So hydration is more than just thinking about drinking water. It's providing cells with this balance of being hydrated and also transporting the cells around into your body. The only way that your cells can absorb this water in the way that they need to is through mineralization. So if you're drinking plain water, what often I get is this sort of, if you're not used to drinking water, it's like, I drink water and I have to pee all the time, right? Oh, I can't. I have to stand all day. I can't make to the bathroom. I'm a teacher. I can't pee all day long. And that tells me that the water is, I call it just naked water, right? It's naked, useless water. So you have to hydrate your water with minerals. Start bare minimum salt. Everyone's got salt in their house, right? So that's sodium, plain and simple. The next level would be to add mineralized salt, which then has your potassium and magnesium. I'm going to get the question, I'm sure, so I'll just debunk it now. What about electrolyte powders, right? Electrolyte powders are the way that the marketing industry has capitalized on this very basic concept. I would guess that electrolyte powders, actually I know, electrolyte powders are far more expensive than the salt that's in your cabinet, or even better, the mineralized salts. Secondly, it doesn't include natural flavors, natural colors, citric acid, and God knows what else. So ultimately it's cheaper, and then it just doesn't have all the crap in it. Okay. So hydration, nice and simple. Stress signal is ultimately you're dehydrated. The cells aren't moving around. Everything's really thick and sluggish. Okay. Number 2. Foundation number 2. Protein, whole versus processed food, and fiber. We'll get into protein here in a moment. I'm going to skip to processed food. So refined sugar is where the sugar has been stripped from its natural source. So sugar is like sugar cane or maple syrup or honey. It's sourced from the tree or the hive or the plant. And now it's stripped away from its natural source and turned into something super high, super concentrated, fast hitting sweet. Sugar is fast fuel. So that's why when we crash, we crave something sweet, because it's like, I need this jolt really fast. That's why we crave sugar, not protein. Refined seed oils. These are oils taken from seeds of plants like corn, soybean. I don't even know what a canola plant is, because that's not even a canola plant. They call it like vegetable oil. It's like if anybody knows what a canola plant is, but it's seeds from these plants that then get processed, chemically heated, and it makes it really cheap and abundant. And we kind of made this turn in the 80s saying that butter, lard, bacon fat caused high cholesterol and heart conditions. So that's the start of refined seed oils. Refined grains like wheat or rice have fiber and their nutrients removed. So grains inherently themselves are not bad. But if you've ever seen like an actual wheat berry, it kind of looks like a really hardened grain of like brown rice. that should get milled into the cookie you're making. But because we like things nice and pretty, right? The outside of the grain berry gets stripped. So now the inside is a paler color because we don't want brown flour, right? We want white flour. So we strip that outer edge and then now we bleach it so that it's this perfectly pristine snow white flour. That's what refined grains are. And then fiber. It's like the one we always forget, but it's the one that our doctor's like, oh, you're having gut problems. Oh, you're having motility problems. Here's some Metamucil powder, mix it in your drink that every day. But we never talk about like eating fiber. Fiber is like the broom going through your house and taking out the trash. Really, really important. Okay, so I'm bouncing back to proteins because protein's like the big hype right now. It's not a new hype, but it's a big hype right now. And I kind of just want to simplify the idea of why it is important. So proteins are building blocks, and it's the building blocks of everything, right? It makes us feel naturally full. It's what offers satiety. And satiety just means like, can I eat something and not feel like it's like whatever the tagline of Pringles is, eat it and you can't stop to the last chip. I don't know what the saying is, but that's lack of satiety. Okay. So protein offers satiety. In fact, bears in the fall will eat fructose berries from trees, but they're full of fructose. And it actually, it slows down the satiety so that they can eat more food so that they are able to hibernate in the wintertime. So that translates into how high fructose corn syrup happens to decrease our satiety and makes us want to eat more. But that is a soapbox I will not get into today. But just think about that. We want to have satiated meals. Okay. There are 9 essential amino acids in protein, meaning raw materials that create neurotransmitters, or if you're like, that's too big of a word, what does that mean? It's just electrical currency. It's like, how does the electricity run through your house? Raw materials that create the electrical current. They are essential amino acids because we cannot create them. They are only found in food. They produce muscle repair in our body, hormone balance, immune function, our ability to detox, so just taking out trash, nothing more than that. Energy production, that's kind of all of the inner workings of our vehicle, of our house, right? We have electricity, we have water, we have light, we have windows. All of that needs to happen in the building blocks of these 9 essential amino acids. So a moment ago, I said to you guys, anxiety and depression. This is a huge one. 1 in 5 people are diagnosed with anxiety. Currently, this is what we're experiencing. This could range from people who are medicated to one who just, I've got this diagnosis, but I'm not going to do anything about it. Or I just feel it and I think that something's off. Should I do something about it? Meds that are prescribed for things like this, anxiety and depression, are said to boost serotonin. So serotonin, remember, 95% of it is created in your gut. So this medication claims to boost serotonin. And in fact, what it does is it does not boost serotonin, is it rations it. So rations it like this picture of the camel. Camels live in the desert where there's very little water. So they have these fat humps on their back where they collect water so that they can ration it as they move through their environment. So what these SSRIs or what these antidepressants do is it rations our serotonin for what we have, the very little of it that we have, and it sort of kind of delivers a little bit here and there as we need it, okay? But it doesn't increase or boost it up. So if you look here down in the middle of the slide, a complete protein includes all of those 9 amino acids. If you eat protein that is an incomplete protein, this is typically plant-based proteins, all meat proteins are complete. Plant-based diets are a little bit more difficult because if you don't eat a substance that has all 9 amino acids, it is not a complete protein, so it's nothing at all. You can't just like piece it together. It has to be one component of 9 amino acids. That converts into tryptophan. Tryptophan is one of the 9 amino acids. We know tryptophan, I like this example because we were like, tryptophan comes from turkey, right? And then we just like pass out. But ultimately, not only do we pass out, as we feel amazing. Tryptophan gets converted into serotonin, which gives us sort of that happy, elated feeling. And that's how it's converted. Each of the 9 amino acids has the same process. We eat the complete protein, it converts to a neurotransmitter, it converts to amino acid, and then this is how we get sort of the hormones that we need. So then now we see like emotional stability, the mood is a little bit more stable, the sleep is on point, we're satiated, we're not craving crazy things. And then we touched on this already, blood sugar stability, right? Like how much of a roller coaster are we and how much can we level that out? If you're like, well, how do I know this? I'm a big proponent of continuous glucose monitors. So you don't have to be a diabetic to have one of these. Pop one on for 2 weeks and just get a sense. When my stress levels go up, when I'm driving in traffic, when I skip breakfast, when I eat eggs first thing in the morning, when I drink my electrolyte powder, whatever it is, you can kind of see in live time what happens to your glucose in that. So you're wanting everything to be stable. So even though it's within normal ranges, if you've worn one before or plan to wear one, it will say that anything between 70 and 140 is a normal range. And if you stay within that range, you're good. But I would beg to differ that the more you go from like one extreme to the other, that's kind of creating that insult for, now I can get sick. Now I get a chronic disease. Now I get inflammation. And the body's just stressed, right? Because it's going from these 2 extremes. So I popped this up here because I just want to briefly chat about like ingredients. This is the big thing. The joke is always like, after you speak with me, you go to the grocery store and you leave buying nothing. Many of you guys like laugh because you're like, I absolutely know what that is. These are sort of the most common. My gym people are like, I love the Premier Protein at the front of the gym. Have you looked at the back of the label? No, but it's a protein shake. Have you looked at the back of the label? So I'm just pointing out something like there's 2 factors, like 2 different places where they add seed oil in your protein powder. In what world do we need seed oils in protein powder, right? This one doesn't actually have, it has sugar, but most of them have high fructose corn syrup. So remember that fructose is what decreases our satiety. And then we want to go home and like eat all this crazy stuff out of our pantry. Granola. So that's another thing, right? I'm healthy. I ate granola. I ate my granola and yogurt, right? So granola and yogurt, you've got seed oils. You've got oats that are often sprayed with pesticides, especially if they're not organic. Oats in general are really, really, really hard to digest, and they just kind of sit in the stomach. And then you add that on with a fruit yogurt. So then that's like compounding sugar on top of that. And then those of you guys who know me will know I love to talk about Diet Coke. So I don't want to demonize Diet Coke, but one thing I will say about Diet Coke is that the thing that causes all these mishaps and these misfires in our world? I don't know. Like the answer is yes, maybe it's no. I have no idea. But what I know for sure is that it greatly affects your ability to handle glucose in your body, meaning it can cause insulin resistance. So it's sort of like the chicken or the egg. Does the Diet Coke cause the cancer? Probably inherently not. So I don't want to like outright make that claim. But what I do know is it causes your ability to use the insulin in your body correctly. It decreases that ability to happen. So that much I know. So take that for what it's worth. Okay. Jenny asked about gluten flour substitute. So, or gluten-free flour substitute. Not terrible, but I want to know what the substitute is, because oftentimes we'll see like pea protein, which seems like it would be okay. But anytime there's a pea protein, then I'm like, is it the actual pea? Is it organic? And what else is in there? Sometimes we get xanthan gum in gluten-free flours because that's what creates the chewiness that gluten gives you, like if you're making cookie or bread. And so that's the replacement, or sometimes even tapioca starch, and that becomes really gut disruptive. So not inherently no on the gluten-free flour, but you have to read the label really carefully. Is it all soda or diet soda or something special about Coke? Missy, I love that you're asking this question because I know you don't drink soda. So quick snippet. So diet soda for sure, you guys, because if you looked on the label, see if I can get us back there. So if you look on this label, when we talk about ultra processed foods, other than caramel color, because we can make like caramelized sugar at home, and carbonated water, I suppose, but like you can't make any of those ingredients. You can't buy them at the store. You can't cook with the ingredients. So that puts it in the ultra processed foods category. That's like a no-no. Now, soda, there's two components of that. Is it refined sugar? Usually the answer is yes. You'll see a lot of sugars now that are cane sugars. A better option if that's something that you need or you need a little treat from. But then I'd say like you can make your own homemade soda maybe with some maple syrup or honey instead. That would be the better option, right? So if you're going from like Diet Coke, the next best thing would be regular Coke. The next best thing would be Mexican Coke because it's made with cane sugar. And then making your own or maybe none at all. Okay, so there's like baby steps to kind of getting through all of this. But no, I would not say there's anything special about Coke necessarily. They've just done a really good job at marketing. Thanks for the questions, you guys. Okay. So the biggest takeaway that I want you to walk home with is subtracting before adding, right? We're in this world of fixing because something's broken about us. So we need more supplements, more rules, more protocols, more perfect proteins or perfect routines. But what I do know is everyone I've encountered is not like, yeah, I just like have all the time in the world that I could just implement this stuff. Like all the time in the world, I can sit at home and spend 10 hours in my kitchen and do all of this work, right? Probably not. So think about subtracting. If your foundation is noisy, we become paralyzed by just analyzing all the information out there. There's tons of books, there's podcasts, there's God knows what that gives you information. Some are great, some are okay, some are horrible, right? But how do we even quiet down that noise? The first thing is your body already knows what to do. You have to remember that. The body is incredibly smart, intelligent, and capable. It knows how to regulate your energy. It knows how to balance your hormones. It knows how to stabilize your mood. Okay. That is inherently the way that it's designed. So if anyone's saying like, hey, your hormones are off, you need to balance them, your body does that. Because if our body didn't do all that stuff, we would die, right? We wouldn't have this ability to survive the chronic pain and the chronic illnesses and all the things that come our way. So just know that first. Your body already knows what to do. Before adding anything, go through your pantry. Go through like the inventory of what you eat in a week. Do you fall into the ultra processed food category? Constantly snacking on those ultra processed foods. How are your sleeping habits? Are you overstimulated? Meaning Can you just sit there for 5 minutes and stare at the birds or a wall or your kids playing? Or do you need to sit and be scrolling or texting on your phone while all of that's happening? And then think about your ability to make decisions. Do you get decision fatigue? Because again, you become so paralyzed over the analysis of the million different things you have on your plate. The world is full of this conflicting advice, and nourishment as medicine came together with my colleague Carissa, because we're here to sort of sift through all that information for you, not because of we're like sitting here, learning through a book and doing all those things, but this is our lived life. I got here through living through the turmoil of like, all right, I'll play your game of antibiotics and these crazy treatments that didn't quite work. I need to figure out what are the other inputs that are going into my body that's causing all of this stress. So you have to quiet the noise of the endless options, the endless opinions, do this, do that, the 50 different ways to eat, the dogmatic diets that are out there. Our brain gets so overwhelmed. And so then you become like, I don't even know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything at all. This is just the way that it is, right? And it becomes very powerless, so to speak. So where do you start? So remember I said, like, your body already knows what to do. You already know what to do. The problem is not necessarily the knowledge, it's the discipline around it. Because if you don't decide, the habits will decide for you. I love the saying of your health and your longevity and your vitality is rented. You have to pay rent to it every single day. It leads into sometimes a conversation of moderation, right? It's like, I do pretty good most of the time, 80-20. 80% I'm really on point with these categories. And then the other 20% of the time, I spoil myself with that Diet Coke, right? But then it's sort of like, does that break the discipline? Is it enough to where if you break the momentum, do you go back to my joints hurt or I can't sleep, right? Or the weight comes back on when I thought I was doing really well? How much of that are those moments where you just kind of let off the gas just a little bit? But again, I don't want you to think about like, I need to add so much more stuff. Start by subtracting, even if it's just one thing at a time, and see what does that yield. Take for a moment and think about for me the idea of what would it be like if I worked out and I ate the way that I think that I should, and the weight starts coming off. And not in a way that it's like we're skinny or we have a model body, but in a way that it feels really good to live in our body. We don't feel those aches and pains anymore. We can bend the knees and squat down. If you've been in my yoga class, you know I love this thing, like sit down on the floor, stand back up. Sit down on the floor, stand back up, and don't use your hands, right? It's like an ancient Asian wisdom is it actually gives you a prediction of your lifespan, whether or not you can do that. And that's one thing you can change, right? It's completely free. You don't need equipment. You don't really need instruction, just like lay down on the floor, stand back up, right? What would it feel like for you to have that kind of movement ability, that kind of energy? The ability to run around with your kids with all the excitement that they have and not be completely exhausted. But then ultimately complete choice and power over your health. Because if you were anything like me, it's like, it's fine, I'm fine, it's because I'm old, oh, it'll work itself out, right? We do that all the time, constantly. We will put anything higher in priority than ourselves. But most of the people in the room today are women. And what we know from a standpoint of women is we are the gatekeepers, right? So if our health is not sound, if we are not doing the things, the practices, that doesn't mean that we have to keep everything buttoned up. So I don't mean it that way. I want it to be messy, but I want you to be able to have choice over being messy because you can. You're not going to fall apart if you're messy. We are the gatekeeper. So it's our job to sort of be better for ourselves. Our health is in tip-top condition. And if we fall, if we get sick, if life just hits us with a crazy diagnosis, what we do is then we have agency over how to mitigate that, how to quiet down, and how to turn, right? We're not relying on the healthcare system, which remember is simply a Band-Aid. It's simply a Band-Aid. And some of you guys are in the healthcare system with me, so you know. It's really hard to kind of move past that because, right, doctors should know better, nurses should know better. But we don't spend any time in the healthcare system linking food to any of these conditions. But 100% of the molecular biology is created from food. So why do we not look at food? It's crazy to think about, right? So this is my offering for you. We're going to do a 1-month group program where we will dive into all of these crazy things. We'll dive into hydration. It's like, oh my gosh, how can we talk 90 minutes about hydration? We can talk like 90 days about hydration. You've been around me long enough, you're like, oh yeah, she can go a long time and talk about hydration. Fuel, anything from the food that we put into our body, protein, fiber, carbohydrates, all the in-betweens, and I'll simplify it down for you. Movement, what does that even look like, right? Because more movement is not often better. I'm a big person of like, if you can get a 30-minute movement practice in, whatever that is, and be done, move on with your day, that is key. We don't need to be spending 3 to 5 hours at the gym. We don't need to be doing a 90-minute yoga practice. If you want to, also great. But if you're feeling that inflammation and all that stuff building up, it's probably not working for you. So it's ultimately figuring out the discernment of what works for you. And then mindset, right? It's like, how do we get ourselves to do any of these things? Because if we don't decide, the habit will, time will, and things then will just happen. 2 things that are included with the program because of the webinar today are live coaching sessions with me. How those are different from the program itself. The program is kind of me just talking at you. There'll be some Q&As, of course. But the live coaching is where you come in and you're like, hey, I've got this specific thing. I am dealing with XYZ. I was recently diagnosed with this. This is where you come into the live coaching sessions and we can piece those out apart. Those are optional, but I definitely think that people should show up to these, right? Because it's an opportunity to have these sessions with me where I am just kind of fielding your questions. Along with this is we'll talk about how to go to the grocery store, where to source your food, where on earth do we get meat that's actually regenerative, grass-fed, grass-finished, not just, oh, we just buy organic meat from the grocery store. Where do we source all of our food from? And then ultimately, the big thing with this one is how to overhaul your entire kitchen. It feels like a big feat, but I'll walk you through the steps of overhauling this. So that's a big resource as part of this program too. So that's what we've got going on over here. Questions from out there land? If you, there's a QR code on the screen also. If you can't, if it doesn't work, whatever it is, Carissa's going to drop the link for registration in the chat. So you can just click on that if you want. But yeah, anything fair game. It could be about the presentation. It could be not about the presentation. Any questions, fair game.
None? No, not yet, team.
How to repair SIBO. Okay. So SIBO is basically an overproduction of gut bacteria. And it typically is like when we eat and all the food just sits in the belly. So think about for the moment when I talked about how water needs the minerals to be able to move it to its respective cells to do its job. SIBO is the same in food form, right? So now your food is not delivering its building blocks to all of your organs and structures of the body. It just sits and sort of ferments in the gut and causes this overgrowth of bacteria. So we see a lot of usually gas, constipation, or diarrhea. So I would say, Rosa, for a quick answer to that question, the first thing is removing those big five, the ultra processed food. Are you upping your hydration, protein, fiber, movement? And then it would, depending on the severity, I would limit the amount of time that you spend eating. So ideally in a world, we only eat while it's daylight. So I'll probably get an intermittent fasting question here, but it's not so much about, are we fasting? Like I want you to fast 12 or 16 hours or something like that. It's shortening your window of eating to only daylight hours. And when the sun is down, that's when we should stop eating. So that often helps with the SIBO and that overproduction of bacteria because we're just not eating quite as much or over, not so much volume, but over course of time. Okay. How much protein is enough protein? General rule, 90 to 100 grams a day. This is across the board. Okay. Now that's just to either sustain, like, so if you're one of those people who said I was like an 8, 9, 10 out of 10, 90 to 100 grams would sustain what you've got going on. And you don't have any new conditions, any chronic issues that you're dealing with. Now, if you're trying to build muscle, either from a bodybuilder standpoint, or if you were underweight, then we would boost that up to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So it kind of shifts around, but I'd say for the average person, 90 to 100. I will email you. Everyone who signed up for the webinar will get a copy of today's email. And the link for the registration, Carissa just popped in there. Does the salt you add to the water affect your blood pressure? Thank you for that question. So salt has been demonized for sure in our world of causing heart problems, right? So what you need to think about with salt is its electricity. The more salt we have in our body, the better the electrical current. But what is salt often used for? It's a preservative, right? It's thrown into our packaged food, our ultra-processed food. It's a preservative. So salt itself is not inherently the problem. It's the ultra-processed food, right? So we don't say like, okay, stop eating the Cheetos, stop eating the Doritos. That's what's causing the blood pressure issues, the heart condition, the cardiovascular malformations. It's not the salt. So the answer to that is no, it does not. If you're eating really good, high quality salt. Yeah, hopefully that answered that question. If you need more clarification, iPhone, let me know. Is there a salt supplement that has all the necessary essential minerals we can add to our water? Yes, Baja Gold is the brand. There's other ones out there. I think there are other ones out there, but Baja Gold is the one that I know personally. The other thing you can do also is if you just have regular salt and you're like, this is the salt I use, you can add trace minerals. The brand is Trace Minerals. And so it's not any of their supplements. It's literally trace minerals, and you would add a couple drops of that to your water. I use the mineral salt already. Is that enough? No. If you use the Baja Gold, that has magnesium in it already. Now, is it supplementing magnesium? No. That's a different conversation. But yeah, if you are on a magnesium supplement for something else, let's say for like sleep or for brain health or something like that, that does not supplement for that. Those are completely two different things. I love these questions, you guys. What else? Um, Celtic salt, Tiffany, is um, you would have to add trace minerals to that because it's just sodium. So that's what I would suggest to that. Um, so I'm hesitating because these rabbit holes get deep, you guys, and that's part of the whole reason of the program is that we have, more than an hour to touch on all these things. Um, Many of the salt products out there contain a high level of lead. And that like anything that touches soil will inherently have lead in it. So anything like your garden vegetables have lead in it. Of course, nothing is lead free, but it can amplify depending on the way that it's farmed. So most salt have like dangerously high levels of lead. Same thing. Am I going to sit here and proclaim that like lead causes cancer? No. But is it just one more factor to the 201 factors that you're encountering before you even leave your home? Very highly, right? So as much as we can start to clean up, so Celtic salt is fine for now. If you have it, Tiffany, use the rest of it, add trace minerals instead. Or once that's out, I would switch to either Baja Gold. Jacobson is another great brand of salt. That one you will need to add trace minerals, so you have to do a double duty. Or Malden. I'll put those in here. So Jacobson and Malden. Both of those will need trace minerals. Baja Gold is the only one that you don't. So it depends on, what you. Yes, I sure can, Jenny. So fiber, you guys. Fiber is, again, the broom, right? If you guys are like me, I really love a clean house. Like it's literally, there's like nothing better in the world than to have a clean house. So think of fiber in that way. It's the ability for you to tell your body you love it. So fiber is just as important as all the other things because we're putting food in, we're putting new inputs, but we constantly have to remove what we don't need. So fiber is my favorite sources of fiber is avocados. It's actually 15 grams of fiber in one avocado. Raspberries are also super high in fiber, 8 grams. Chia seeds, basil seeds. You can make chia seed jam, basil seed jam. Basil seeds, if you're not familiar, like operate just like chia seeds. They kind of gelatinize and kind of thicken when you add it to something. The easiest way to consume those is pop a tablespoon of it into your bottle of water or spread that out through the course of the day if that's too much seed in your water. And then anything seeds, so like pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, things like that. Those are also great because they're high in magnesium. I love pumpkin seeds, especially at night. It's sort of like you get a little bit more fiber and it's magnesium, so it helps you kind of calm down and go to sleep. The goal is 30 to 40 grams of fiber per day. That's what you're aiming for. You'll notice that turns gut things around really quickly. My constipation people or my people who are not stooling every day, which you should be stooling 3 times a day. You guys will be like, oh my gosh, 3 times a day. You eat 3 times a day, you poop 3 times a day. The fiber content will help with that. And yes, there's something else I was going to say about that. So 30 to 40 grams of fiber. Oh, so the order in which you eat is also really important. I'll touch upon that because I mentioned the idea of like, okay, I work out 3 to 5 times a week. I eat really healthy, but I'm still having all these issues, right? So metabolic health, you remember, you guys, is ultimately like slowing down that roller coaster. So it's less of this wavy action. In order to do that, we have to eat in the precise order. So think about it this way. If you wake up in the morning, the first thing we often do is either coffee, maybe with creamer, right? Or a pastry, or a piece of toast, or an English muffin, or oatmeal, something like that, right? So these are all carbohydrates, which turn into sugar in the body. So it's basically just like you might as well just eat candy upon waking, okay? So your blood sugar should be low when you wake up in the morning. And then we eat a carbohydrate so the sugar goes up, okay? And then we start coming down because now it's like 10 or 11 o'clock and we crash. And it comes lunchtime, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm like starving for something. I need something. And again, we want fast fuel. It's not often like, oh, like I really want a good piece of steak with grass-fed butter at lunch. It's like, give me a sandwich, give me a donut, give me like whatever's in the break room that makes my sugar go like this again. Okay. So that's typically the order in which we eat. If you eat fiber first, this is every meal, fiber first, then your protein, then your carbohydrate, you can have as much carbohydrates if you want. You can have all the pasta, all the bread, all the things in the world if you eat in that order. If you're eating your allotted fiber amount for that meal, so let's say you're doing 40, so we're hitting 50 to 20 grams of fiber per meal, and then you eat your 25 to 30 grams of protein, then have all the bread you want. And I often say that that's the challenge, because you're usually satiated after the fiber and the protein that you're like, I don't even really need that bread. So that's really important to think about. Jenny, let me know if you wanted more resources on fiber.
I just wanted to follow up and say, like, I don't know, I like oftentimes like I think about what I eat in the morning, and I do like overnight oats, but I also add like chia seeds and like flax meal, but I eat it all at the same time. So like, is that's still a no-no?
Yeah, so you want to eat savory protein first. So remember, so fiber and then protein, right? So you could just do like a 10-ounce glass of water that has like a teaspoon of chia seeds, drink that, eat a hard-boiled egg, and then your overnight oats. I don't know if you're like, you're trying to make it easy and grab your jar and like head to school, but your protein is what stabilizes the carbohydrate of the oats. If you could eat more eggs, or even better yet, get rid of the overnight oats, that would be my preference. But if you love your overnight oats, like I don't want to take anything away that you love, just eat like 2 eggs and just do like a quarter of the portion of what you normally would eat for the oats. Just less, because you probably won't want that much after you've eaten 2 eggs. Seed oils that are not good for the body. All of them, Rosa. All of them. So what you can use for fats, this is actually a shorter conversation. Butter, grass-fed organic butter, tallow, which is fat from beef, lard, which is pork fat or bacon fat, duck fat, avocado oil, and coconut oil. Those are the only, and olive oil. Those are the only 3 plant-based oils you can use. If you
Krystal,
love,
I think she was asking, what is it about seed oils?
oh,
That's
oh,
not
sorry.
good.
What is it about?
Very good.
So seed oils are chemically processed, right? So we're removing like the seed from like a sunflower plant, let's say, and then we're taking it into a lab and like pulverizing it into a liquid form. Like, so think about like if you have ever seen olive oil made, they like crush olives. So now we're like crushing seeds, but then we take that liquefied stuff from the seeds and then we add things like hexane. Hexane makes cars run and the engine of your car run. And now they're adding it to that. And then they add components to make it clear, right? So it's like a usually yellow, clear substance where it's canola. And that is now called unsaturated fat oils. So then it's like, we should eat things and consume things that are unsaturated fat. But the things with unsaturated fats is our body doesn't know what to do with it. It's not a form of fuel that our body understands, right? So now it's getting clogged in the artery, and now we see things like elevated triglycerides, not cholesterol. Cholesterol is not a problem. I hope I didn't just open a can of worms when I just said that. Cholesterol is not the problem. Triglycerides are the problem. That's actually kind of the fat cells and how those are metabolized in our body. That comes from seed oils and unsaturated fats. It does not come from eating bacon. It does not come from tallow. It does not come from eating a ton of butter. It does not come from eating a ribeye steak, because your body knows what to do with those things. We're designed to eat that stuff. So hopefully that answered that question, Rosa. Thanks for clarifying, Chris. And then Jenny, I answered that question, right? And mixing them. Okay, cool. Fueling, eating, and working with athletes, specifically cyclists. Okay. So this doesn't necessarily have to be cyclists. This will be athletes in general. It's going to be more differentiating between men and women. Okay. Men, the preference is you eat protein before working out or being active. Okay. Women, you want to, switch that around. I confused myself. The other way around. Women, you want to eat protein before doing anything active. Men, you do not. Okay. So women should never work out fasted, meaning waking up in the morning and going straight to the gym and having nothing, right? We don't have the reserves in our body as men do. And this doesn't have to be crazy. You could be going to a yoga class, still should not be fasted. Okay. Now that's like a double-edged sword, right? Because you're like, well, how am I going to eat my 2 hard-boiled eggs and my overnight oats and then go work out? So oftentimes I will say whole raw milk is a great thing, just like a little bit, like an 8-ounce cup of whole raw milk. You can do a protein shake, maybe. But even better than that is really high quality collagen powder in your milk. So it's just something, a little bit of protein, but you're not having to eat and it doesn't fill you up. But even better is an amino acid supplement. So you can get products like Perfect Aminos on the market. There's other products out there. Perfect Aminos is my favorite. It has enough protein in there to provide women fuel for workout, but it doesn't cause, like you're eating 2 eggs and oatmeal. For men, it's the opposite. You have the reserves to be able to work out fasted. Now, if you are going cycling though, so if you're like, I'm someone who bikes 100 miles on a weekend or something like that, that completely goes out the window. So what I would recommend for that is protein up to 1 pound per body, 1 gram protein per body weight. So if you're 100 pounds, 100 grams of protein, so on and so forth. That is going to provide you with fuel. And then the carbohydrate you need to eat are simple carbohydrates, meaning fruit, vegetables, stuff like that. So nothing heavy like rice, pasta, oatmeal, stuff like that just kind of creates a brick. So fuel is your protein, and carbohydrates that keeps that fuel moving. Okay. And it also gives you the sugar too, but sugar different than, refined sugar. I love creatine as a supplement. Yes, for sure. Not all creatine is created the same. Since we're asking kind of about supplements, you guys, most supplements are synthetic. So you want to be very careful about that, meaning made in a lab. Okay. So you just kind of like throw a bunch of synthetic things together and you create something that we're missing. So we often call that expensive urine, because that's exactly what happens. You just like drink it and it comes right out. So you have to make sure that, like, how was that supplement made? Is it coming from something that's naturally sourced, that is just then capsuled? And if you have the gene mutation MTHFR, that will also be another factor. If you're like, I don't know what that is, I'm going to guess you've never been tested for it. If you've been tested for it, this is the ability for you to methylate your supplements, specifically things like folic acid and your amino acids that you eat. So let's say sometimes I'll work with clients who are completely like checks all these boxes and they're like, nope, but my metabolic numbers are still off. Then I will look into, do they have a gene mutation? and where are they off on their amino acid panel. So I can actually test for all of your 9 amino acids to tell, like, is your tryptophan off? That's why you're not producing serotonin. That's why you are experiencing this anxiety and depression, for an example. So oftentimes you think you're doing the right thing of like, I'm taking magnesium, it's helping me with sleep. But if you have the inability to methylate your supplements, they're useless to you. So basically they just go in and their expensive pee just comes right back out. But that was a tangent from creatine. Creatine's the same. Like, creatine's fantastic, but make sure you're sourcing that well. Lineage Provisions is my favorite creatine. It's made from bovine parts, literally just crushed up parts of the cow that yield the chemical process of creatine. So it's nothing made in a lab. And it's not just for, we know creatine is for like bodybuilders, and it's not so much for building body, but it is for muscular repair, reconstructing cells, but most importantly, brain health. Like, if I can get everyone over the age of 50 to take 5 grams of creatine a day, that would amplify your energy levels and your brain fog and all of that exponentially. Creatine is exceptional. We even have like, Carissa's kiddos are on creatine too. They just like take half the amount. Her little guy's 3 is on creatine, and he takes creatine and he's like, and like his brain starts like firing. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. That's what she said. It's really awesome. So anybody can be on it. It's like, we don't have a 3-year-old bodybuilding, but it's more for brain health. So yeah, if you're over 50, if you're a human, get on creatine. Again, Lineage Provisions. I'll put this in here. Same, Jenny, for collagen, Lineage Provisions. Yeah, they have creatine. And the other thing, just as a side, since you guys are asking the question, if you do know you have the MTHFR gene mutation, don't worry if you don't know, but usually rather than getting it tested for, it's typically really expensive to get tested to know you have a gene mutation. I generally just assume. So you want to take supplements that are liposomal. And what that means is that whatever that is, like let's say you're taking magnesium, it is encased with a fat glob on the outside. So the magnesium sits inside that fat cell so that it bypasses all the stomach acid. So what it means when you have a gene mutation is your stomach acid just eats it up and then it all becomes waste. When you have it encased in fat, it bypasses all of that and then is properly absorbed through your body. So there is a liposomal creatine as well. Creatine by Row Nutrition. Good questions, everybody. Yeah. Lineage Provisions also has great like meat sticks, like beef jerky snacks. So for Maureen about cyclists, Dave cycling, really good regenerative meat sticks. Okay. Oh, Jenny, you're asking the hard question, ADHD. Okay. So if I were taking on someone with ADHD, whether it be a child or an adult, I would first remove, right? Subtracting is huge on that one. So not only the refined sugar, the refined grains, the ultra-processed foods, but food dyes, all chemicals in food dyes especially. But I'd go to say like all chemicals in food. Again, when you look at the label, you guys, I want you to think of something really simple. Like I challenge you after today, next time you go to the grocery store, grab a label and just look at it. You don't need to look at all the 50 ingredients. First of all, I would say, why are there 50 ingredients? But you don't need to look at all of them. Just stop when you get to one that's like, nope. And usually within the first 5, you'll either see sugar, a food dye, or a seed oil. And when you hit any of those, you just stop, put it right back. So you don't have to read through the whole thing. You're like, I don't know any, like once you hit one of those, but I guarantee you usually within the first 5, you'll hit a seed oil and you put it back. Okay. So that's the first thing, is removing and subtracting all of the things we've already talked about. Secondly, with ADHD is usually it's not enough vitamins and minerals. So the salt in the water does huge things for ADHD, for attention, and fat. Like, are we getting enough omegas in our body? Are we getting enough literal fat, like animal fat, butter fat, tallow, things like that? Because that's electricity. And so electricity is directly tied to our anything neurological. So if we have seizures, if we have ADHD, if we have anxiety, depression, that is typically related to the salt and fat once all the other things are subtracted. Hopefully that's helpful. Dave, I don't know what you were asking. You'll have to ask that again if you had a question.
You're on mute. Can I just ask, or you want me to type it?
No, just ask.
Well, have you heard of Scratch Labs?
Mm-hmm.
They're out of Boulder, Colorado. So I was just wondering, because they have a powder mix for. So I guess my question is, like, you're on a 60-mile ride and you can't carry necessarily fruit and vegetables if you are carrying your food in your back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
You could take a banana. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out, in terms of my needs, would be the assistance with hydration and fueling on like a 60-mile bike ride, and trying to figure that out in terms of I use up calories. So if I use, like, say 1,200 calories on a ride, and I need to probably keep my calorie intake at least half or more, so I don't start, like cramping up and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then with like drinks, you have the electrolytes in your drink. And, I heard what you said about powder drinks and electrolytes, but that kind of like helps maintain going that distance. So I guess I'm kind of like asking in terms of um, your knowledge based on that, because as you see, professional cyclists, they have, nutritionists and so forth. They just know how to maintain their body to go over 100 miles in one ride. So just asking your knowledge based on that, because that would be my need in terms of trying to figure out how to take care of myself and what to put in my body.
Okay. Yep. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for popping in. Okay. So come back to like what we've already talked about, right? Of our focus is often on caloric intake, right? And yes, it's the laws of physics, like what you put in, what you put out, and ultimately, like we're talking about like losing weight. But I never think about calories, because is a ribeye gonna have more calories than let's say a hot pocket? Probably, right? But when we're comparing the nutrient value of the two, it's much greater. Okay. So first off, I would say is don't think about calories. Okay. Think about fuel. Fuel is first protein and fiber, right? And so you're like, yeah, I can't really carry a bag of vegetables and fruit with me. But what you can carry is meat sticks. You can always have dried beef, dried elk, dried turkey, whatever. And it's like, you can carry a ton of protein in your backpack for long rides that way. Hard-boiled eggs, things like that. They can just kind of sit in your backpack. I know that sounds gross, but it's totally doable. So focused on meat. Like you would have, like meat sticks is like the only way to go when you're trying to sustain protein, being away for that long. The scratch is just another electrolyte, right? So you would replace it simply, instead of carrying packets, carry like a little vial of salt with you, right? Okay. So you could fill up water at any of the stations, right? Because I imagine either you're probably doing a race or something, there's water stations. You can pick up water anywhere, put a pinch of salt in there, boom, there's your magnesium, potassium, and sodium. Okay. In terms of fiber, there are lovely things called soli. Soli is fruit jerky. You guys see, like, I'm a big fan of jerky because, you know, we have to have things like in our pocket. If you keep these things like in your purse, in your car all the time, you'll never go hungry or needing to feel like you stop into the drive-thru. Soli are, they're like dehydrated fruit, basically. So you would get your carbohydrates that way. So instead of eating like a whole mango, one strip of soli is like 5 mangoes. So you would get your fiber that way, as well as your fast fuel carbohydrate from the fruit. Does that help?
That helps, yeah.
Okay. A lot of things that are good for us, very pricey. What should people in a tight budget do? A higher end. Remove. Do all the free things first, Zola. Okay. So all the free things are overhaul your kitchen. Go in there, look at every label. Same thing. Just the way I said, like as you're going through the grocery store, pick up the label. As soon as you hit something ultra processed, an ingredient you can't find at the grocery store, sugar, throw it out. Okay. Don't go buy a fancy salt. I know you have Baja Gold, but this is like for everybody. Use the salt you have, right? Or if anything, just drink your 100 ounces of water a day. That's all you do. That's free, so to speak, right? And slowly, one at a time. So even though I'm kind of giving you like all of these things, you still can just kind of do one thing at a time, right? So if you have, oh, I already went to the grocery, or people who have like a half cow in their freezer or whatever from whatever farm, eat that first. Don't throw away the perfectly good cow, even maybe if it's not best source, don't throw it away. But then when you start to add back, do better, right? So slowly add back things. If you're replacing a spice in your cabinet, just do one thing. If you are needing to get a water filter, it's not a whole house water filter. It's maybe one just sits on the top of your kitchen counter, let's say. We'll get into that in the conversation of hydration in the program, but there's so many things you can do today without leaving your house, without spending $1. And even if it's just eating fiber, protein, carbohydrate every time you eat in that order, not all at the same time, in that order. If that's all you do, that costs you no extra money, right? Because you're already still eating. That hasn't changed. So hopefully that's helpful, Zola. All the rest is just excuses, right? It's like, well, but it's like the simple things you can do that are free. What else you guys got? Speaking of creatine, because I was just at the gym prior to coming onto the webinars, this is my creatine drink / collagen in the morning. It's so you guys can see that, but it's raw milk, of course, cacao, creatine, collagen. Sometimes I put maple syrup if I'm feeling a little fancy. Sometimes I don't, but that gives me 30 grams of protein if I'm like moving really fast. I recommend you chew most of your protein, but sometimes, I didn't have time to like make some hard-boiled eggs before the webinar, so I just made 30 grams of protein this way with clean protein, not powders that have all the fillers and all that stuff. That's really important. If you guys drink protein powder, like take it out of your cabinet and look on the back of the label. It's a little horrifying. What else you got? Anything? Okay. I will send out the recording to you guys to share as you please. A couple people had to leave early or whatnot. You know how to get a hold of me. Here's some other ways to contact us. On Instagram, I'm at, hold on. I'm going to stop sharing this screen. This is giving me a lag. Share, maybe. Okay, hopefully you can still hear me. My computer's like frozen, but Instagram, I'm at Krystal.Chesnutt. And our website is nourishmentasmedicine.com. Okay. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for wanting to do better for your health, your family, all that stuff. And ultimately, it's kind of just about being better consumers, right? So if we just kind of make one slightly different choice every time we go to the store, then all of this stuff becomes normal, as opposed to you have to seek for it, right? So that we don't have all the garbage sitting on the shelves anymore if we don't participate in buying it. So reach out if you have any questions. Let me know if you have questions on the program. I am here for you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.